Hey everyone, Internet book reader here. Today I want to talk about The Call of Cthulhu by H.P. Lovecraft and Go Tanabe. Now, as with any videos made on YouTube about H.P. Lovecraft, it would be remiss of me to not to mention that he is a horrible human being who upheld some of the most heinous beliefs about other races that is not his own race. You can Google the name that he gave these cats just for a taste of what I'm talking about, and some of that belief to enter into his work, making it harder to separate the art from the artist. But like many other horrible people, he is a very talented individual who have crafted some stories that they become their own genre. We even name it after him, Lovecraftian. And it's been a century after the guy breathed his last miserable breath, so I think it's fine if we look into one of his story and why so many people, good people, are inspired by this genre that he has created. Now, the book I want to discuss is The Call of Cthulhu that was adapted into a manga by Go Tanabe, a mangaka that is known for specializing in adapting H.P. Lovecraft works since 2007 to now. The story starts with a man being chased by mysterious figures. He managed to get away from them by hiding in alleys, then blending with the people of the city. The people who are chasing him are members of a cult. He has researched about this cult in a while and he found their temple made of carving of stones of unknown age. He has since regretted looking into them because of the things he found, but it was a mistake that he cannot take back, and it all started with the stone tablet that he found. We then flash back into the past before things turn into this mess. Back in Providence, Rhode Island, 1926, we see our guy there being an officiant in the funeral of Georgie Engel. George is a 92 years old man who mostly kept to himself, and while he was walking at night, someone bumped into him causing a heart attack. The guy we've seen seeing from the start of the book will inherit Francis, the guy we've seen from the start of the book, will inherit his thing. George was the only family he's ever known and he'll miss him, but George's many items as a renowned archaeologist will hopefully keep him too busy to miss George too much. Francis went to Boston to take care of his inheritance, and among the items there was a mysterious box that for some reason made him nervous. After searching for a while, Francis found the key and he opened the box Pandora style, and it is here that he found the ancient tablet. In the tablet is a carving of an entity that looks like a combination of octopus, dragon, and human. And along with the tablet there was a document titled The Cthulhu Cult. The document had two chapters in it. The first was The Dream and Dream Work of H.A. Wilcox, written in 1925, and the second entry is the narrative of Inspector John Legras, written much earlier in 1908. H.A. Wilcox himself is the person who crafted the tablet, and to tell the story written in the document, we have a flashback in the flashback to a year earlier in 1925, Providence, Rhode Island, in George's residence. He was still alive at this point in his life, and despite being in his 90s, he is still working when he hears a knock in his door. It was Wilcox, and he's asking for the professor's help to figure out the ancient writing in the tablet he is carrying in a clearly panicked state. But what is even more odd, once George got his hand on the tablet, it was a tablet that was freshly sculpted. It is definitely not an ancient artifact. The professor understandingly thought that he was being pranked by Wilcox, but while Wilcox admitted that it was he that sculpted the tablet, he assures the professor that it's not a prank. It is a tablet that he sculpted because it's been haunting him in his dream. Wilcox said, "I made it last night in a dream of strange cities, and dreams are older than brooding Tyre or the contemplative Sphinx or garden-girded Babylon." A quote that carried with it a ton of atmosphere building that will be carried in many other Lovecraftian nightmare stories. The professor decided to humor him and invite him to go inside, and Wilcox started talking about his dream that started to happen after the earthquake the other night. He dreamed of a giant city, cyclopean according to his words, filled with also giant-sized monolith and hieroglyphic carved into every single blocks. And from below the city he can hear a voice as if calling him, Cthulhu-fication. And when he wakes up, he is already sitting at his desk working on sculpting the tablet. The professor looks visibly shaken listening to Wilcox, and he asks him about the Cthulhu cult, which Wilcox never heard before. Since Wilcox seems to never heard of it, the professor finished his meeting with him to continue working at the tablet. He has heard of Cthulhu before in an archaeological meeting. It was from the work of Professor Webb in 1860, the giant of a devil worshipping cult. Penglui maglenaf Cthulhu rile wegah nagi vtagen. After that, Wilcox visited almost every day, bringing stories of new dreams each day to the professor. Dream of the same city, of Cthulhu, of a silhouette as big as a mountain, of seawater, of green ooze that drip out of the monoliths in the strange city, of indescribable screams and gigantic figure. But on the fifth day, Wilcox never came. When the professor called to check, it was because Wilcox passed out and is now in a hospital. They sedated him because he seemed to have lost his mind and only repeated words coming from his dreams. The professor decided to check further about nightmares that others might also have after the earthquake. And he found many cases of people having the same dream, and then those people started losing their mind too. Some killed themselves, some jumping through buildings or putting themselves on fire. And the only thing in common between these global cases was an image of an octopus dragon, Cthulhu. He was about to check further into the case when the sculptor Wilcock has been released from the hospital, but when the professor met him, he did not remember his dream. He did not even remember sculpting the tablet or even visiting the professor. It's as if every trace of Cthulhu has been removed from his mind. After finishing the first chapter, Francis continued with the second chapter of the document about the professor archaeological meeting in 1908, when the professor was asked by one Inspector John LaGrasse, New Orleans police inspector, to help on a case they have about some voodoo ritual. Now, voodoo is one of those aspects about other races that are not our Lovecraft race that he unironically believed in, just to put more awareness here about some good old propaganda from the before time. But back to the story, the inspector asked not just George help, but all the professor help to identify a sculpture, the octopus dragon human hybrid we've seen in the other flashback. One of the professor there, William Channing Webb, has seen it before in a ritual where the believers all worship a fetish object that looked like the sculpture. The cult that the professor found was chanting the same chant that the cult that the inspector found, even though they're nowhere near each other. Penglui Maglunaf Cthulhu Rile Begah Nagel Vetan, which if translated to English means in his house at Rile, that Cthulhu waits dreaming. The inspector then started telling the story about how the case came to be in case if the information helped him solve the case. As with the previous flashback, this flashback got some flashback in it. One day in November, a woman walked in screaming for help that her family in a swamp village to the south has been taken away and are about to be killed. The inspector decided to go to the swamp to help, and they found the village and heard screams from deeper in. But when the inspector asked for help to guide them navigate the swamp, none of the villagers dared to join despite their children's life being in danger. That was how scared they are of what is hidden in the swamp. They followed the noises and found the cult of Cthulhu, dancing near the bodies of their sacrifice while chanting for Cthulhu. When they were approaching the cult, some of the cops started hallucinating about eyes watching them, and in a panic, the ambush turned into bloody fight. It was after everything was settled that the inspector found the sculpture. He then interrogated the cult member, and they were surprisingly cooperative. They started talking about the great old one who came from the star. They lived aeons ago on Earth. Depending on the star situation, they could either travel from world to world through the sky or die. And these great old ones live in the city of Rileh, preserved by the spell of the mighty Cthulhu. Then an infinite amount of time passed and the first man came to be. Among them, some are sensitive enough to feel the great old one's existence, and they talk to them through their dreams so they can form a cult and build sculpture of the old gods. They will offer sacrifice to them and chant for them. But one day, the great city of Relay sank, but the cult persists because of prophecy that promises the return of the great old ones. The inspector of course doesn't care what the cult believes, but he wanted is the leader of the cult and how to stop them from killing people. The cult member offered him about a book called the Necronomicon, giving us another quote: "There is not that which can eternal lie, and which strength aeons, even death may die." The Necronomicon is the book of death, and whoever reads it will die, which of course the inspector also don't believe, but with those hints, the inspector eventually went to meet the professor to seek their advice. Unfortunately, at that point, both the inspector and the professor investigation leads to a dead end. Francis, knowing this, decided to continue George's investigation, and he went to visit Wilcock. Ever since we last saw him in the flashback, Wilcock has been carving many things. His memories have returned, and with it his obsession of carving the likeness of the being he saw in his dreams. But there's nothing new that he can offer Francis. But his curiosity has been stoked, and excited of finding fame through new discoveries, Francis decided to investigate further. He went to visit the inspector, but the inspector has given up on the case. Two of the members that went with him to the swamp has hanged themselves, and the cult member they managed to capture is already dead, so the case went cold not long after. Francis managed to request to look at the idol sculpture that was confiscated from the cult, and he realized that the idol was made from very old material. He visited his friend to find a similar material and found an article from 1925 about a ship that found a beaten and battered ship with one dead body and one surviving crew holding a strange-looking idol. The ship member went through a storm and the crew started going mad and killing each other, with only one survivor. The date of that storm was the same date that Wilcock started seeing his dream. With that hint, Francis went searching for the surviving crew member. And when he journeyed to the museum where the crew member lived, he saw a statue in the museum, the idol sculpture of the Great Old One. He managed to find where the surviving crew member Johansen lived, but when he got there, he already died to a heart attack after losing his mind for some time. He did left behind his journal, which Francis managed to borrow. It was in this journal that he found it, traces of a city of the dead where the great old ones live. According to his journal, Johansen and his crew was ambushed by a ship of cultists. They fought and their ship got damaged, but they found traces of what the cultists was trying to hide from them so much until they attacked them to their death. Following these hints, the crew found an uncharted island in a giant city. They went deeper expecting treasures and they eventually found a giant trapdoor. They managed to somehow open the door, but when they were looking for a way to get in, one of the crew members turned mad and fell into the darkness. Worse, he came out as a monster that started attacking everyone else's, eventually turning into the shape of the idol. Because he was killing people without mercy, the crew decided to escape. But the city is weird. One of the crew members ran into a hallway and disappeared before their eyes, only to fall to his death behind them. And whatever Hawkins has turned into is still chasing and killing them. There were two of them left at the end, but they managed to find their ship, but the creature is at their tail. But once they are on board the ship, thankfully, the creature stopped chasing after them, seemingly afraid of water. But it's not over. The creature split water like it was Noah. It was a great old one after all. Performing impossible cosmic feat is nothing to it. So the ship grew closer and closer to it as if being pulled. In desperation, Johansen turned back instead of running and rammed his ship into the creature. For a while it was quiet and the creature and the city gone, but when they looked up, it was there, with black wings flying in the sky above them. Eventually the creatures left them, but its encounter turned them mad, and eventually they died. After reading through everything, Francis, realizing the danger of the Great Old One, decided to log all his findings. He realized that the cult still exists and will not give up because they've heard the call of Cthulhu, but he hoped that they are aware of the danger, because if they woke the Great Old Ones, if they called it here, it will destroy everything in its arrival like it's nothing, because it is a great merciless god and only it matters. And that's the call of Cthulhu. That's cosmic horror. It brings with it this dreadful and oppressive atmosphere, like you are facing something that is beyond comprehension. It's so old that even death itself has died before it. And human lives are nothing because its existence are in such a different level of understanding. It's like human looking at ants. If you like cosmic horror and if you like Lovecraftian, I highly suggest this manga. The novel is still amazing despite how old it is, but the art of the manga just took it to another level. I give this a 5. What do you think? Let me know if I miss anything, so leave your thoughts in the comment below and subscribe to the channel. That's about it. See ya.